So Chuu Only Cry in the Rain MV has been out for a while, but in my defense there is a lot to talk about here, so it took me a while to get all of these ideas in order, so here we go. Before we can talk about the symbolism, let's quickly go over what happens in the MV first. We start off with the scenes of Chuu wandering around a school before picking up this old camcorder. This text translates into "My memories started to fade one by one, then only cry in the rain." So now we know that what we are watching next is in the past, because Chuu is remembering these old events through re-watching some of these old recordings on the camcorder. Chuu and a friend of hers are sitting at a train stop, and a guy walks by. He bows down out of respect, but the two girls seem very welcoming and excited to see a new person. We switch to the guy and Chuu's friend sitting alone. Now they seem gloomy, and notice how this scene has a sort of grain to it, while this one doesn't. To me, this is symbolical for the past that is kind of grainy and very saturated, and the present that just seems kind of normal and gloomy. So they're sitting down there in the present, probably remembering the past that they shared together with Chuu. Then we see Chuu arrive, and her friend excitedly hugs her. We mix scenes of the present, where the three friends hang out, with the more saturated, almost pinkish scenes of the past, that feel like a nostalgic look back at their beginnings as a group of friends. Next, we also see Chuu smiling at the camcorder, so while all of these scenes are probably not literal recordings, they are a symbol for her nostalgic look back. Now we see Chuu doing homework. They all look at these papers that seem to be a school report card, so where you get to know your grades, basically. But the boy seemingly doesn't have good grades, so maybe in order for the girls not to worry, he just takes all of their papers and burns them. These scenes of them hanging out is intercepted by Chuu only crying in the rain. She leaves her keychain behind that earlier on was shown to be matching with her friends. We switch back to seemingly the present, in which Chuu and her friend are hanging out, just like they did in the past, which is underlined by the camcorder style footage that is intercepted. Her friends notice the keychain and try to find her. They seem worried for her. Now her friend embraces her while she is crying in the rain. A back and forth between them having fun and her crying. They are back at the train station, but now Chuu has luggage with her, while her friends don't. At first she isn't smiling, but her friends joke around until she has to smile. Now a beautiful, beautiful animated scene starts. Chuu closes her eyes, then a bird appears that starts to tear up. We see a train that is coming for us, the three friends at the train station, until only Chuu is left behind. Now they are on bikes, while Chuu has wings. Her friends disappear, leaving Chuu behind again. When her keychain starts to glow, and she smiles at it, and a white bird flies away. Then we switch back to the real Chuu, who is hanging out with her friends. Then she is alone, smiling at what could be the camcorder, when she, together with her friends, wander off with a white bird in front of them that is flying away into the sky. Now there is a lot of free interpretation space here, but I kind of want to narrow it down to 3 different interpretations. Of course, these are not the only 3 interpretations, you can always have your own. These are just a few of my ideas and theories. First of all, trigger warning for the 3rd interpretation. I put this in the last place so that you can skip that part to avoid it, and please feel free to do so. But first of all, one interpretation that was on a lot of people's minds even before the release. Is this a unrequited love story? Maybe even a gay awakening story? There's a beautifully heartbreaking interpretation where this is a story of unseen love. Chuu shares joyful moments with her friends, but her feelings are unspoken, unreturned, possibly even unnoticed. Her love is invisible, and that invisibility is what hurts her the most. Throughout the MV, Chuu gazes at her friend longingly, but it's never reciprocated. The camera emphasizes who looks at whom and who doesn't, and a love triangle might be implied. But it's never really explicit. The silence says everything. She is right there, but never looks back at her the same way. So she never confesses to protect the friendship instead. And when it rains, she lets her pain surface, alone and unseen. I only cry in the rain then equals you'll never know how I feel. You'll never know how much I loved you because I hide these feelings from you. In the end, the white bird becomes a symbol for this. It flies away, just like Chuu, not out of bitterness, but from the quiet necessity of just letting go. She loved deeply, silently, and chose peace over pain. She can only feel better in the future if she lets go of these feelings that are in the past. And there is another layer to this thought, because there is a queer reading of the story, one of identity, confusion, and internal questioning. In this version, the trio dynamic, so one boy, one girl, and Chuu, becomes more than just friendship. The closeness of Chuu and the other girl feels more intimate, more emotionally charged compared to her playful dynamic with the boy. So is Chuu just close friends with her, or beginning to realize that her feelings run a little bit deeper? Then her thoughts might be, am I reading too much into this? What if she doesn't feel the same way? What does this say about me? And then the sadness in the MV could reflect the quiet ache of discovering feelings you don't fully understand yet, or don't feel safe enough to express to others. She hides these feelings away, not just for her friends, but she also hides them from herself. I only cry in the rain then equals, I only allow myself to feel when no one else is watching. So then the rain is a shield, and her silence is out of survival. In the animated ending then, Chuu's flight might not just represent leaving her behind, but stepping into a deeper sense of self. Now she is free, like a bird, exploring this true side to herself that beforehand she was trying to hide. She doesn't fly away because she's ashamed, she flies because she's done hiding. The friends remain unaware, but Chuu moves forward with emotional clarity. She is able to feel free now because she leaves this oppressive situation behind. For queer audiences, this speaks volumes. The pain of not being able to name your love, the fear of losing a friend by being honest, the confusion of questioning in a world that often discourages the questioning in it of itself. In some places, queerness is still dangerous, so silence isn't just emotional, but it's survival. The dove says, I loved you, I couldn't tell you, and now I choose to love myself enough to let this go. And while some fans have pointed to the MV's ambiguity to support a more straightforward reading, the queer interpretation doesn't negate those views, it only deepens them. Whether this story is about drifting from friendship, unspoken love, a queer awakening, or a mix of all three of those, its emotional core remains the same: longing, silence, and the quiet courage of letting go. Chuu's flight is not just about leaving others behind, no, it's about choosing clarity, choosing yourself, and ultimately being set free of the pain of being unseen. So if this interpretation doesn't align with your own, that's okay, but don't dismiss it simply because it's a queer reading. The story's meaning isn't being distorted here, it's being expanded, allowing more people to see themselves in it. Another way to look at the story is to look at it from a perspective of a coming-of-age story, where themes like letting go, growing up, and hiding your feelings are typical topics. The music video begins with Chuu and two close friends sharing a blissful, nostalgic day, walking together, laughing, taking photos. Their bond feels timeless. They remind us of similar memories that we ourselves made while we were growing up. But suitable signs of change begin to appear. Chuu studies while her friend seemingly isn't interested in it, and so she probably gets better grades than her friends, since we see the boy taking the papers to burn them. So all in all, it wouldn't be far-fetched to read this as a sign that while her friends might stay in her hometown, Chuu might move away to go to college or university. A typical story from a teenager's life. This also gets underlined with the story that happens in the present. Chuu revisits her old school, she meets up with her friends at the train station, and now she isn't with them all the time anymore, but still tries to reconnect. But just like Chuu says, just for today I'll cry cuckoo. This line can be seen as Chuu allowing herself a moment of emotional nostalgia, a temporary return to the feelings and friendships of the past. The cuckoo ties back to the clock motif, symbolizing a timed release of emotion. She knows things have changed, time has moved on, she might has to leave again, and one day she might even forget about all of these memories with her old friends, just like she says in the beginning. But just for today, she lets herself feel all of these emotions. The love, the ache, the connections with her friends. It's not denial, more so it's compassion. A way to honor what once was before letting go. Then when it rains, both literally and symbolically, Chuu walks alone and her joy is replaced with sadness. But just like the cuckoo is a symbol for her timed feelings of nostalgia, her sadness is timed as well. I only cry in the rain can mean that you hide behind the rain, you don't want others to see your pain, but another reading of this could also be I only cry in the rain, Sometimes I cry, and when I do, that is okay, because I know that the rain will stop and then the sunshine will return again. For now, I don't want to leave my friends behind and move on. I want to cling to these memories and emotions, but tomorrow I maybe feel better, maybe even excitement for the future, and in a few years I might look back at my past and feel joy instead of pain. And all of these ideas are underlined by the climax, in which an animated sequence starts where a tear morphs into a train, probably the train Chuu took to move to her college. Then once the train rolls by, we only see Chuu remaining, because she feels left behind, alone, even though she moved away. And then her friends disappear, maybe like her memories of them fade away. Now it rains, but instead of crying and being sad, she smiles as she remembers her friends because of her matching keychain. Chuu now has wings, while the grey bird that cried is flying away, the bird being a symbol for Chuu, her sadness weighing her down before she starts to let go and feel free, so she can finally fly away in peace. But at the very end, we also see Chuu with her friends. So while growing apart from friends, or having to move because of college, or not seeing each other often anymore, can feel like you lost something, but it can also be regained. You can remember the good times together without feeling sad that they have passed, and you can always meet your friends again, even though it might not feel the same way as it did in the past. On the surface, this is a simple farewell, but underneath it's a layered story about growing up, outgrowing relationships, and learning to let go without guilt. At the heart of this story is the idea that not all friendships are meant to last forever, and that that's okay. The trio shares a deep connection formed in youth, but life is pulling Chuu in a different direction. She's not leaving out of anger or conflict, she's just growing. The ache isn't from betrayal, it's from realizing that something beautiful is ending naturally, and that you might not even be able to do anything about it. Some people shape who you are, but they don't share the same path as you. So Chuu's departure is peaceful and respectful. Her friends aren't portrayed as holding her back or being left behind with resentment. They wave at her, they understand. It's a quiet goodbye, not a tragic one. And again, the phrase "I only cry in the rain" traditionally suggests hiding emotions, but here it evolved. In this story, the rain becomes a temporary safe space for emotion. Just like rain, sadness is natural, seasonal, and not forever. Crying in the rain becomes a ritual of release. It allows Chuu to feel, but also to let go. And in the climax of the story, her friend is there for her. She can share her pain, and together they can overcome these feelings. So in a way, it's not like you lose somebody, because you will always have these memories by your side. The rain ends, and so does the sadness. Well, and sometimes you just need rain. I let myself feel when it's time, and when it passes, I move forward. This is a form of emotional resilience, not avoidance. Chuu makes space for grief without letting it consume her. So overall, you could read it as only crying in the rain being a coming-of-age message to anyone moving through change. It's okay to feel, it's okay to outgrow people, and it's okay to cry, just not forever. Chuu doesn't dramatize grief, she dignifies it. Her story teaches us that goodbyes can be soft, growth can be quiet, and loss doesn't mean failure. This story doesn't just explore sadness, it shows us how to carry it lightly. It says, feel deeply, let it rain, but then take flight again. Some friendships don't survive the transition into adulthood, but they don't need to end in pain. They can end in love, in understanding, and in gratitude for what once was. The last theory explores themes that may be emotionally difficult, so trigger warning for topics like self-harm and suicide. You can skip to this time to avoid it. Please know that I approach this topic with deep respect and care. My intention is not to sensationalize or trivialize these issues, but to offer a sincere analysis of these emotional narratives that the visuals might convey. If you or someone you know is struggling, I encourage you to seek support from mental health professionals. Your life and well-being matters. I've also included some helplines in the description below, so please don't hesitate to reach out to those numbers. There is always someone you can talk to if you need. And remember that you are never alone, and you will always be missed. One interpretation I had after my first time watching the MV was that it might be portraying a story where she has taken her own life. Anyone who has lost someone dear knows how painful nostalgia can be when revisiting old memories. This MV is filled with scenes that feel warm and cozy, like those bittersweet, rose-colored moments we hold onto when remembering someone we've lost. We see her friends sitting together without her, and then remembering their shared past. Through camcorder footage, they relive their time with her, Seeing her again in these joyful, intimate memories, this emotional recollection ties directly to the opening quote. My memories start to fade one by one. Sometimes revisiting the past can be so painful that we try to suppress it altogether, choosing to forget rather than to feel the constant ache. But in this case, instead of letting the memories fade away, her friends hold onto them. They remember her so vividly that it's almost as if she's still there, laughing, smiling, just like she was before. But a painful truth begins to emerge. The friends reflect on how they may have missed these signs. Chuu singing Only Cry in the Rain is a metaphor for her hiding her emotions, where no one could see or hear her. She appeared cheerful on the outside, and her inner pain remained invisible to those around her. To some, this might match the experience of depression, where you are physically present, but emotionally fading. And then the symbol of the cuckoo clock that strikes as a reminder that time is passing can also underline this. Time is passing, but Chuu isn't moving forward with it. The clock becomes a haunting reminder of emotional stagnation, of being stuck while others continue on. Her best friend, filled with regret, imagines what it would have been like to be there for her. This leads to a fantasy sequence where they get to embrace, laugh, and make new memories. In their imagination, Chuu is just leaving for something like college, framed as a hopeful departure, but this illusion is broken. She leaves behind her keychain. Her friends search for her. The screen turns so bright that perhaps this is a signifier of a memory that is too painful to fully confront. Chuu looks back at them with a somber, knowing expression. Then the animation begins. Chuu's tears fall from a gray bird. A train appears and seems to be heading straight for us. But when the scene shifts, we see the friends waiting for the train, except only Chuu remains. At first, it may seem like she was left behind, but perhaps this is symbolic. For her, this memory is all that remains. There is no future, no next chapter, just this echo of what once was. She now has wings, and when she sees the keychain, a symbol of the love and connection she once had, she's ready to ascend or move on. The gray bird that cried now turns white, possibly representing peace or release. But maybe someday they will be able to reunite. Despite the tragic interpretation, I don't think that this music video is meant to leave us in despair. Instead, it seems to shine a light on a very real struggle that many young people face, often in silence. By telling the story, it gives shape to something that usually stays hidden. It doesn't glorify the pain, it simply acknowledges it with compassion. And in doing so, it reminds us of something hopeful, that there is still time to be there for the people we care about. Sometimes the ones who seem the happiest are the ones carrying the heaviest burdens. This video gently encourages us to reach out, to ask how somebody is really doing, and to listen without judgment. It's a painful story, but also a meaningful one, because it tells us love your friends deeply, be present, pay attention, and don't wait until it's too late to show up. Check on your friends, because not every goodbye is loud. So in the end, I feel like Chuu has given us something that is really rare, a story that invites multiple truths. It could be about growing apart from friends, whether through distance, change, or emotional silence. It could be about unseen love, or the quiet ache of hiding how you really feel. It might even reflect depression, the kind of feelings that you keep from those closest to you. Every reading reveals something different, but they all share one truth. The feelings we feel most deeply often go unnoticed until we let them free. What makes this music video so meaningful to me is that it doesn't tell you what to feel. It asks you to feel something and trusts you to figure out what that is. Where most music videos guide you with a clear story, Chuu offers a canvas, not an instruction manual. It trusts the viewer to bring their own story to it. Maybe you saw friendship fading, maybe it reminded you of heartbreak, or maybe it reflected a secret you've never shared with anybody as well. Something that made you only cry in the rain. That openness is what makes it so powerful. It invites you to look inward, because whether you're growing, grieving, questioning, or healing, there's room for you in the story. And in a few years, this MV could mean something entirely new and different to you. So in short, this MV matters because it helps people feel seen, even when they're still trying to figure out what they actually feel. And the meaning is ultimately yours to decide.